following this stories and is suffering from whiplash, but she got out of her hospital bed to join us. ABC News correspondent Arlette Saenz. Arlette, crazy day yesterday in Washington. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think a lot of folks were caught by surprise about the White House's announcement that they want to invite Vladimir Putin here. And you heard that exchange with Dan Coats, the country's top intelligence chief, who seemed to be unaware. It was a pretty remarkable moment as you saw that shock on his own face and his own reaction. But you've already had lawmakers up on Capitol Hill who were already upset with the president meeting one-on-one with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki. They're also frustrated that he is thinking of inviting him here to Washington, especially as there have been so many warnings from the intelligence community that Russia is attempting to undermine American democracy and could meddle in the future.
There's also been some cracks in his support with his own party with this 98-0 vote in the Senate. What happened there?
Yeah, the Senate unanimously passed this bill, a resolution saying that the U.S. should not allow any foreign diplomats to be sent to Russia for interrogation. This all comes after a proposal from Vladimir Putin that Russian investigators would question those 12 indicted Russians from last week and allow American investigators to watch in exchange for allowing Russia to interrogate 11 Americans accused of unspecified crimes, including a former ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul. Now, the president called that an interesting idea and offer. The White House earlier this week was saying he made no commitments, but he was talking with his team to see if there's actual validity in the process of that. Yesterday, we saw the third walkback in just as many days when Sarah Sanders came out and said that while they thought Putin's offer was sincere, that the president doesn't agree with it. Now, you had the State Department calling that proposal absurd. You had Lindsey Graham, who is an ally of the president, saying that it was naive and absurd. So there had been a lot of criticism, and ultimately the White House kind of had to pull things back on that a little bit.
There are some people who are saying that as a pushback, Trump, after this 98-0 resolution in the Senate, that as a pushback, he then went and invited Putin because of that resolution.
Well, yeah, it's unclear what exactly prompted them to announce it at that time and even to issue the invitation. Now, Russia this morning is saying that they are open to discussing the invitation, but they also added that the focus needs to be on resolving disagreements between the two countries instead of just adding more meetings and summits. Now, if Putin comes here, it would be the first time he'd be at the White House since 2005 when he met with President George W. Bush. And so a lot of folks are wondering if this visit will actually happen. The White House says that they were looking at the fall. Could that come before the midterm elections or after? I think there's a lot of questions.
That's interesting that Russia kind of rebuffed the president's offer in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing official yet, but they are saying that there needs to be talks about trying to come to agreements and resolving disputes between the two countries before Putin thinks about coming here.
We still don't know we don't have a readout, a transcript, or any type of synopsis of what was talked about in that meeting, do we?
No, we do not. And there was actually another interesting moment with Dan Coats out in Aspen yesterday when he said that he didn't really agree with the president's decision to sit one-on-one with Vladimir Putin. He said that if he had been consulted, he would have suggested a different avenue, but that's not his job, not figuring out the logistics and deciding who and what format you meet in. And he also was asked specifically if there's any risk that Putin might have recorded that one-on-one meeting. You know, it was the president, Putin, and two interpreters, no one else. And Dan Coats says that that risk is always a possibility. So I think there is some concern among some within his own administration about what Dan Coats says. He doesn't know what was talked about in there. So we'll see what else comes out in the coming days.
Dan Coats going rogue. We should say that is President Trump's handpicked director of national intelligence. Arlette Saenz, all right, get strapped in for Friday. I have a feeling the news is going to be fast and furious today. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks for having me.